So we are here. We're doing our March and April countdown, and we just had a lot to say about Avengers Infinity War. And so we decided to do a separate little video about it. And so, David, thanks so much for joining me on this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, as always. Glad that I got to let out all my feelings about Avengers.
Yeah. So here we go. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
And of course, this is our big, massive combine. We weren't able to preview this, but this combines all basically the characters of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and this character of Thanos they've been building up for so long. And this movie, you can watch and listen to my podcast that I did with Trevor from How to Love Comics about this movie. So I liked this movie, but kind of the more I sit on it, the more problems I feel I have with it. And I hated the ending. I did not like it at all. But I really thought that they did about as good a job as you could do of managing all of these characters. There's so many characters. And I thought that like the various team ups were pretty fun with like Doctor Strange and Iron Man and like Star-Lord and Thor. And like I thought the witty banter was pretty funny. Like every time Thor called Rocket the rabbit, that was funny. There were other funny dialogue. It certainly was no Thor Ragnarok, but there was enough funny lines to entertain me. And I thought all the action was well done and entertaining. And overall, I was like enjoying it. And then they just dropped this ending like a thud that I hated. And I think that the thing that annoyed me about the ending, so I guess we should say, can we just say spoiler alert this time? I feel like everyone's seen this movie. But the thing that annoyed me about the ending is that it's the same thing that annoyed me about Batman v Superman, is that I feel like they have to be assuming that their audience are stupid. Because with Batman v Superman, there is no way that Superman is not going to be in the Justice League. That's not going to happen. So when you try to pull out that Superman is dead, and it was way worse in that movie because they have like 20-minute funeral scenes and like weeping and wailing and everything, and you're supposed to feel invested. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, do you think I'm stupid? Like, that's how I feel. I'm like, you must think that I'm stupid in order for me to believe this and buy into it emotionally. So in this, they have this like ending where Thanos makes half of the characters disappear. And first of all, I thought it was very confusing because they just evaporate, and that's not like a normal way to die. Like normally you die, you don't just vanish. And so I was like, where did they go?
I think they turned to dust is what was happening.
Well,
right?
It was very confusing. I thought it was a very confusing way. I was like, I don't know what happened. Did they just like go into an alternate dimension? Is there an alternate reality? Because we see alternate realities throughout the film. So it was confusing to me. I didn't get it. And so that hurt the emotional response. And you have to be a moron not to believe that Spider-Man and Black Panther are really dead. Like, literally, they're shooting Spider-Man Homecoming 2 in the fall. Like, I mean, Black Panther just had the biggest opening of ever. Like, there's obviously he's not dead. And so, like, first of all, it creates a problem where everything that happens in this movie is going to be redacted in the next movie. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if we see Loki again. And I'm just like, I certainly don't think the only death that I think will actually stick in this movie is Heimdall, because I think Idris Elba's like, I'm out of here.
Yep.
And that would be so frustrating. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And like, like, for instance, in Wonder Woman, you have, spoiler alert to Wonder Woman, but you have Steve Trevor dying, and it's emotional, and you feel it, and it's devastating. At least for me it was, and it motivates the character, and there you go. If I knew for sure that Steve Trevor was coming back, which he might, which will be so annoying to me if he does, but if I knew that, it wouldn't be as emotional to me because it wouldn't feel as real, it wouldn't feel as lasting. And so I think they should have ended it with just one character dying or two characters dying and it being emotional, and then you would be like devastated and really be able to feel it, and not just like tons of characters just vanishing into thin air. And so I don't like the ending. I don't like the ending, but I liked a lot of stuff before the ending. So I gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
So I'm a hater, but I don't know. What did you think about it?
Oh, we're 100% on the same page here.
Yes.
So yeah, going into the movie, well, okay, so the second Avengers didn't do nearly as well as the first one in the box office, but this one we all knew would do so well. And the reason people were dying to go see this movie is because we all wanted to know, okay, who is going to die?
Yeah.
Is it going to be Iron Man? Is it going to be Captain America? We thought that the stakes were real, that somebody was going to be gone for good, and that it was going to be emotional. That is the reason that I had been anticipating this movie.
Yeah.
But before I even saw it, I'm like, oh, they could do this thing where they drop a building on like all of them and they all die, and then Doctor Strange uses his Infinity Stone to reverse it. That would be worst case scenario, because that would be insulting to our intelligence, because that would remove all stakes. And then sure enough, it doesn't happen exactly like my worst case scenario, but it was basically the same thing. There were 0 stakes.
Yeah.
The deaths
But
did
it's
not
even
matter.
worse than having 0 stakes. Like, I'd rather have something like Thor Ragnarok that's just like fun and silly and enjoyable than pretending to have stakes and emotionally manipulating your audience to feeling stakes when there are no stakes. Yep. Like, to me, that's worse.
Yeah, and like you, I think the only deaths that are going to stick, I do think Loki is dead for good.
I will be so mad. But they've already fake killed him once, so I wouldn't put it past him.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that they said. Thanos even said he's not coming back from that. And I think that was supposed to be a message to the audience. He's dead, guys. So I don't think he's coming back. But they wasted his death. It was so quick. It was so abrupt. And he didn't have time to process it. So I think they wasted the one real death. Like a lot of people think Gamora's dead for good. I don't at all.
Right. Gamora's not dead. Like and they actually just confirmed it. I don't know if you saw that quote from the Russo brothers where they were like, no, Gamora's in the Infinity Stone. He's in the time in one of the stones. And and so, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's where all of them are, to be honest. And I could see them having a plot in the Ant-Man movie where he goes subatomic and they learn how to get in the stone, and I could see something like that happening. But yeah, I there's no way they're gonna have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 without Gamora. I mean, that's just not gonna happen.
Right. No, I agree. And another thing about this film, though, is there was a bit of a theme of people faced with the dilemma of whether somebody's life is worth sacrificing for the greater good or for the greater evil. There's 5 different instances that I remember it happening. So the first one is with Loki, and he's given the choice to sacrifice Thor, and he chooses not to. And this is one that I respect. He chooses not to sacrifice Thor, but he has a plan, and he tries to kill Thanos. It backfires. It doesn't work. But that felt realistic to me. Yeah. Most of the other ones did not quite work. Okay, Thanos sacrificing Gamora, I understood that. But when Gamora had a choice to sacrifice Nebula and keep the Soul Stone from Thanos, she chose to give the Soul Stone to Thanos, which would basically kill Nebula anyways. Like, we're going to give him all this power, potentially. It didn't make sense for that character, for me, that she was not willing to sacrifice Nebula. It felt like a plot device for her to move it forward, and I didn't buy it.
Especially when she's just asked, Star-Lord to sacrifice her.
Yeah, and so that's one of the other ones that worked for me.
And Nebula was totally useless in this movie. Right. Her only role was to, like, in general, like, I never had realized it before, but outside of maybe Valkyrie, and I guess maybe some moments with Black Widow, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is underutilizing their female characters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Gamora is supposed to be one of the toughest, most powerful trained assassins. She's the daughter of Thanos. You know, like she should be strong. And I can't even think of a moment when we've really seen her like kick butt in an action scene. Like really, it's like she's underused.
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch is supposed to be more powerful than Doctor Strange. She's basically supposed to be like a Jean Grey character.
Mm-hmm.
You never, like, aside from in Age of Ultron, when you have her possessing their minds
mm-hmm.
and giving those dreams, that's the only time we've ever really seen her be telekinetic. And I know, so they undershow her powers, I think.
I see what you're saying, but I do feel like in Infinity War, she almost came across as the most powerful of any of them to me. So I appreciate what they did with her in this movie specifically.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like they could have. It was a powerful moment when she sacrifices Vision, but Vision is under, like, he should be more powerful. Like all these characters, like, are kind of, but
and that's the sixth one that I forgot about, her sacrificing Vision. So there's there's six. But okay, so we also talked about Star-Lord sacrificing Gamora, which he tried to do, and I appreciated that because that felt true to what a real superhero would do.
But he's a ninny though, because they almost beat him. They almost beat Thanos, and then Star-Lord ruins it. You're like, no!
Oh yeah.
Get the darn glove off. You're like, no! Oh my gosh.
But yeah, then the last one that, like, I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense. Was when Doctor Strange gave the time stone or whatever,
right,
to save Iron Man. I was like, why would he do that? That doesn't make any sense.
This is the only way.
Right. And that's what I realize now. I talked it over with a friend, and the friend's like, well, he saw 14 million scenarios and only one did they win. And Iron Man probably had to still be alive for that scenario to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay, I can buy that.
I also think that, I mean, I had no problem with Thanos as a villain. He's fine. I'm not a villain person. I don't really care about villains. But people that are saying he's better than Loki, are you insane?
And can we talk about people that are saying that he's the true good guy of this? No. Don't buy that.
Like, he's basically a slightly better version of, I mean, not slightly, he's basically a better version of Apocalypse. His plan is exactly the same. In X-Men Apocalypse, I mean, that's what Apocalypse, he wanted to purify the world and like start anew or whatever. And this is better, but it's not reinventing the wheel here, folks. Like, calm down. I don't know, like, it's not a horrible movie. I didn't hate it, but I just hated that ending. I did not like it. And like, it's not the real ending, because like the real ending is at the end of, the real ending's at the end of the next movie. So I'm trying to kind of keep that in mind. But I just hate it when I feel like the directors think I'm stupid and they try to emotionally manipulate you in a way that feels very self-conscious. You know, like, yes, all movies try to manipulate your emotions. I get that. But like, when you feel it and you can feel them, like, then I start to get frustrated and resentful and and I don't know. I just, like, it would have been so much better if they had the old guard die as opposed to the new characters, because that would have at least felt a little bit believable. Like, I would have bought it, I think, more, and then have this new guard have to go and try to save something. And then that would be a good, like, of sort of passing the baton over in the next movie, and you could still have the old characters come back and have sort of a final awesome bit or whatever, or have them come back to more movies. I don't care, but it would have felt believable. It just, I just don't, to be honest, I don't understand. And I'm actually maybe a tiny bit envious of people that feel sad about Spider-Man and Black Panther dying, because I just, like, how do you feel sad about that? Like, how can you possibly believe that?
I agree. I have one of my friends, he is a huge Marvel fan.
Yeah.
And Monday we met up and we talked about this movie, and it got heated between us because
Yeah.
he loved it.
Yeah.
He's seen it twice now, and he cried at the end twice. He knows, like we've discussed it, he knows that these characters are not gone for good. He believes that some of them are, which I think if some of them are, if some of the people who evaporate at the end don't come back for whatever reason, they wasted their deaths for
Yeah.
me,
Agreed.
because like I could not care in the moment. So if I find out that they don't come back, I'm like, well, why didn't you let me feel it at the time?
Yeah. So you have characters that are dead. You have Bucky, not
Bucky.
dead. T'Challa, not dead. Groot, not dead. Which?
Oh, yeah. I think you might be
Oh
right.
yeah. I don't think she's dead. I don't think they're going to kill off one of their main female characters. I find that very hard to believe. Falcon.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, so Falcon, maybe. I doubt it. Maybe he could be dead.
Yeah.
So that's a maybe.
It's possible.
Mantis, maybe, but that's.
I hope not, because I loved Mantis.
Did you love Mantis? So I guess that I'll give that a maybe count. Drax, no, they're not. We're getting rid of Drax. Even though he's kind of annoying to me. And then
he had my favorite line of the whole movie.
And I like him in small doses. Too much.
Just the part where, where's Gamora? I have one better for you. Who's Gamora? I have one better for you. Why is Gamora?
Yeah.
That part made me.
Yeah. So Star-Lord, not dead. Doctor Strange, not dead. We know there's a sequel coming out.
Right.
Peter Parker, not dead. So, and Parker. So that's it. So the only two people out of all the people who are dead, the only two people who I could see possibly really being dead are Mantis and Falcon. Like, can you imagine if we go through all of that and the only people who are dead are Heimdall and Loki and Mantis and Falcon? Like, what?
Wow.
Ridiculous. And so I don't know. I just.
Oh, well, Nick Fury.
Oh yeah, that's right. Nick Fury and Maria Hill.
Yeah.
In the things. And yeah, but it's so predictable too. Like the next movie is so obvious what's going to happen. So it's just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I sound more negative than I really am.
Me too.
Yep.
Because I technically gave it a positive score because like all the way up until that ending, I was having a good time. I was enjoying it. I thought they had good character moments. The action was really fun. It looks great. But that ending. It's so frustrating because you're like, oh, you almost nailed it. Like I don't know what's worse, like a movie that's just like thoroughly mediocre from start to finish, or a movie that's like so good and then like
Well, I think we should just try to keep in mind that maybe this doesn't work for a standalone film, but we might appreciate it more.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that.
Yeah.
But it is annoying too when people are like, I don't know. First of all, stop comparing everything to Empire Strikes Back and The Dark Knight. Please, for the love of all. I'm so tired of that. Like, please pick another movie. Like, can they just compare something to The Lion King for once or something else? There are other good movies made in the last like 35 years. Like, other movies have value. Can we, like, please compare? Like, I'm so sick of that. And like, I'm so like, just, I don't know. Like, it's just frustrating when you have like mixed feelings about something and everybody else is just like, it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. And I get annoyed when people can't see my perspective on this. Like, I don't mind if people can't see my perspective in general, but how can you not see my perspective?
Right. Yeah.
You know, you don't have to agree with me, but at least validate that what I'm saying makes sense.
Yeah, like I had no problem really with the ending of Wonder Woman. I get it that the special effects aren't that great, but like I thought it was totally emotionally resonant and I liked it. But like I understand why it didn't work for everybody, and that's okay. And I can still be confident with my feelings. And because there are people that final act of Wonder Woman ruined the movie for them. And I can respect that and still love it.
Yeah. Well, I wanted
I
to
don't
ask you,
know.
like, what would you say is something that you really liked about this movie?
The pairings up are my favorite part
Okay.
about it. Like I said, I think I could have had a whole movie with just Doctor Strange and Iron Man. They were really
Mhm.
fun together. And I really liked Star-Lord and Thor together. They were funny. I would love to see a Chris Hemsworth and
Yeah.
Chris Pratt movie. I think that they had great
Oh
chemistry.
yeah, I agree.
That was my favorite. I also liked all the action was great.
Hmm.
It was very entertaining action, very well staged, very engrossing. And so that was good. And I thought they did a genuinely good job of giving almost every character at least one moment.
Right.
And that
I
was hard.
yeah. Yeah, I thought they did a better job than I would have expected
Yeah.
with dealing with so many different characters without it feeling too muddled. Like it was a lot, but they handled it the best that I think they possibly could have, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I really enjoyed was during the big battle scene in Wakanda. There's a part where you see Scarlet Witch, Black Widow. I don't remember her character's name, Denai Guerrera. You see
Mm-hmm.
all these like badass women just working side by side, and it seems so cool to me. And I'm like, we really need like a female
Oh
Avenger.
yeah, I love that. And you know what? Another thing I liked about the movie is that I thought, because a lot of times you'll have like a character like Ultron who's really tough, and but then like his henchmen are just like these nameless drones,
Hmm.
it's like easy fodder. The stormtroopers, kind of a thing where they,
Right,
it's just
right,
easy.
right, right.
And so I liked the fact that his henchmen were super powerful
Hmm.
and really strong and really hard for them to defeat.
Right.
That was actually pretty interesting, I thought, and interesting choices that they made, and that was made it compelling. It wasn't just like, oh, this is another boring action scene with like all these nameless drones that aren't going to win. Like they were strong,
Yeah.
so that I liked.
Yeah. There were the henchmen, like they almost reminded me of like kind of Voldemort's henchmen, you know? I don't know if that makes it.
Like the Death Eaters.
I mean, not specifically them, just like any like a Bellatrix, like anybody
Oh
who's
yeah.
working with Voldemort, like they felt like they had that kind of dynamic, that kind of eeriness,
Yeah.
and I appreciated that.
The one guy even kind of looked a little bit like Voldemort.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point. Maybe that's what made me think of that.
Yeah, so that was cool. So yeah, there were a lot of good things about the movie, but I didn't like the ending. So
Yeah, that
there
was
you
definitely the
go.
worst part. It was like, what did I just I sat through this whole movie just for that, just for them to think we're stupid.
And I'm just so surprised people like weeping and stuff, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, I am honestly kind of
No,
envious
I
that they
agree. I
can get to
agree.
that kind of emotional place with something
Mhm.
like that's so, I don't know. Anyway,
I mean,
well, yeah.
I will say, like, I do need to give credit at least for I can't remember his name. The actor who plays Peter Parker.
I'm Tom Holland.
Yeah, Tom Holland did a great job when he was evaporating. Like you hear him pleading like that he didn't want to die and him like clinging on to Iron Man. Iron Man, we know, has talked about how he wants a kid and he has like this child
Yeah.
figure. And like that was emotionally impactful, but
Hmm.
not enough for me to suspend my disbelief that Spider-Man was
Yeah.
dying.
And it was moving because if you think about Tony's speech to him in Spider-Man Homecoming
Right.
about, people could have died kind of thing, and I want you to be better than me was,
Mhm.
sort of thought about that. So that was probably the most impactful
Mhm.
of the deaths. But yeah,
Deaths. We
yeah,
need to use
right,
air
deaths.
quotes.
Um, but yeah, it's, I don't know. I would not have made the choices they made. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, the David Healy. That's my Twitter name. And you can find both of us on Facebook in our Film Freaks group. It's facebook.com/Film Freaks group.
Yeah. You definitely want to join that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews here on iTunes and on YouTube. And you can follow me at Smiling at LDS Girl on social media. So check that out. And thanks so much again for doing this. This was really fun.
Yeah, always fun.